In this video, I will be explaining the concept of generic interaction receivers. Now, receivers are a bit like interactables, but they're not directly interactable. They're meant to receive an event from an interactable. Now, this at first is a very complicated concept, but once you get used to it and once you start working with it, you'll find out it's actually quite easy and quite efficient in building out complex mechanics pretty quickly. Now here in this example called interact forwarding, we see we have a light here that when we toggle, it not only does it toggle this light, it toggles these two other lights. And these two other lights are indeed separate actors. They are not part of the first light at all. And this is done through interact forwarding, also known as an interactable forwarding an interact event to a generic interaction receiver. So this first light here is a standard interactable that we've been building in previous examples. In fact, if we open it up, you'll see that it's pretty much like the BP simple light example included, that all it does is turn the light on or off. But we've added one more thing here. We added this message call called interact simple. Now, in this blueprint, we have an extra variable here called receivers. This is a list or an array of actors, and we make this editable, and I'll cover why that is later. And we take this list of receivers and we call this interact simple message. And what this does in a nutshell is that because we declared that receiver property as editable, if we select this object in the level editor and we drill down to its properties, we see that it has a receivers array, and in this array we can pick different actors. For example, I'll just add these two lights that we've added in here. And now that we've selected these two actors as receivers of this blueprint, what it means is that we can now take this list of receivers defined in the level editor, again just these two lights here, you see me just add this to this array. We can then send an interface message called interact simple. And this is an interface message that all blueprints that have the generic interaction receiver interface implemented have. If we open up this actor here, we'll see that its blueprint is very simple. In fact, its main event looks similar to the event interact we've had before, but now it's called event interact simple. And its interfaces list does not include the generic interactable interface. It includes the generic interaction receiver interface. And this interface is just a few simple functions, and the first one we're covering here in this video is the interact simple. There are other methods which we'll cover in later videos, but this simply is the receiving of an interaction event from an interactable. And when this receives an interaction event, it just toggles the light. So again, as a whole overview of this, you have your interactable, which works like any other interactable. You can go up to it, you can hit E. If you go up to it, it'll say interact with the toggle light. It's always focusable. Basic setup. But instead, we've exposed a property receivers, which is a list of actors, to the level editor. Again, we've chosen these two receivers as actors, and we are broadcasting this interact simple event. This way, when we are interacted with, we are forwarding this interaction with this first light to these other lights. And when they get this event, they simply toggle visibility as well. And using this chain of interfaces, using an interactable as well as receivers, it allows you to create complex interactions where, say, you have a button that turns on multiple lights. Think of this first light as a simple button that you press, and these other lights are simply the lights in the room or the lights in the hallway. In fact, moving on, we'll see that the future examples are all button-based now that we have this concept explained. In fact, this button here that opens up the video tutorials, this is an interactable, and there are actually hidden interaction receivers that when they receive this interact simple event, all they do is open a URL. And this button is an interactable with its receivers. As you can see here, this one's currently broken because I'm recording this video. This video that I'm opening here is the video you're watching right now. I can select this button and choose this open URL, which is an interaction receiver, and say if I tell it to open google.com, when I press this button, it will send an interact simple event to this open URL receiver, which will then open google.com. And this allows you to have buttons that interact with multiple objects without click. Well, it opened my Google in a different tab here, in a different window on a different monitor, but it allows you to have buttons that are general purpose and can be attached to multiple things. And this is what all the future examples are about. And in this case here, it lets you have a light that turns on or off other lights. Now, because this is an array, that we can assign a random list of all kinds of things to this button. For example, if we want this light to toggle these lights on or off and to open a web page, we can simply add the open URL receiver to this array. And when we hit this light, we will not only turn these lights on or off, but we will open Google. There's not really a good game mechanic in that, but again, this is showing that you can trigger multiple things by simply forwarding an interaction. And this core concept can be applied to create many, many, many things, as the future examples will show. It also can build relationships, which are in the next room and will be documented in the next video. Whereas you can have one button control many things, or many buttons control one thing. And this generic interaction receiver has multiple ways of forwarding events and receiving events, again, which will all be covered. But it is very important that you understand this concept, that an interactable can take its interact event and forward it to other things and cause a chain reaction of things to happen. Okay.